Good morning, everybody. Please leave comments in the comments section. Hit like and subscribe. This is Tom and the Servant for another Raw Talk. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Steve.
Because Walmart is not a private company like your local liquor store or whatever, where they can say if you don't not wearing shoes or not wearing a shirt or not wearing a mask, they don't have to let you in just by their own policy. But because Walmart is a publicly traded company and not a private company, they have to allow you an exemption for religious beliefs and an exemption for disability. And when you say um, I have a disability or I have a religious belief, they can't ask you what that is because that could cause more discrimination. See what I'm saying? So
Can
there's,
you just have a medical reason?
yeah, you can have a medical reason, right? And
Well,
but they're
here's the
not
thing.
allowed to, but they're not allowed to ask you what that is.
Right.
You know what I
Just,
mean? Yeah.
yeah, legally they can't, right?
No, they can't legally. No, that's your own private business. Cause like you could have something that has a stigma attached to it. You know what I mean? Like, let's say
Well, it's none of their
somebody.
business.
Right, exactly,
Protected under
exactly.
HIPAA laws, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's what it is.
All you got
And
to do is carry an inhaler with you and tell them you got
but,
asthma.
but you know what the cold part of this, like, because this is a definitely a psychological operation, because the rules would be clear for everybody, everywhere, if it was officially about the disease, right? Because the rules are so, like, it's different in this spot, different in that spot. Um, th- at this restaurant, you have to have it walking around. At this restaurant, you have to have it sitting down. Like the reason why it's so obscure like that, right, is because it's really not the rule or the law where they get you, right? Because you can have a medical reason or say a religious reason, and you walk in and you don't have to use it, right? But it's the hive mind of the people that put the pressure on you instead of the rule itself. You know what I mean? It's the actual community of people. They go, whoa, why isn't he wearing a mask? Why isn't he wearing a mask? Now you might be covered with the store, but that's not going to stop all these mask wearers
Right.
that that it like originally they would just be some regular guy on his own, acting up towards you, right? But now since he has that mask on, he's with the other mask guys, like that's their team. So now he feels emboldened to come up to you. We're the mask guys, and you're not wearing a mask.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what that mask is, is all about. One is just to see how sheep will react. They
Yeah,
found that out. The second, I think, which is the biggest reason, is to really work on their facial recognition software.
yeah, I heard
Because
that
I had
too.
a customer in here. She's one of your subscribers. I'm not going to mention no names.
Yeah.
Um, who a week ago, her facial recognition, like on her phone and stuff, with the mask up, wouldn't let her log on with her face. Okay. Now a
Wow.
week has gone by. Now it does. So,
What?
so in the past week with her mask on, it'll recognize her and let her log on through facial recognition. And it only took, I don't know how long she had tried prior, but because she was at the dentist, so she had to wear a mask in the waiting room. Okay, so she was playing around with her phone, and a week ago she was telling me it didn't work. You know, the facial recognition with a mask on, even if she put her t-shirt up over her nose, it wouldn't recognize. Now it does with the mask on. It recognizes her, so it's recognizing people. Is working on their software for facial recognition to hone it in and perfect it.
So
That's
like
my
the
opinion, of course.
so like the AI is learning. It's
Well, right, when
upgrading
you got
it.
to write the code, I mean, you can call it AI, I guess. I mean, it doesn't. I
Well,
guess that
like,
too fits.
because like if it's a program, right, you'd have to like rewrite it, right? But if it's AI, it upgrades itself.
Well, it
You
could
know?
be. I mean, yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, and once they get
Yeah.
it written, yes, then it probably can correct the code and rewrite code, to I'm not a coder, so I don't understand how that all works. But
No,
and
but
you
this
ask any
AI
code, they can
is
tell you how that
way
can.
crazy. This AI stuff is so crazy, man. Like it does things I know because when I was in high school, we were doing I forget what it's called. You probably know this, but it's where you type in like C uh like a slash and then like if line 10 does this,
Yeah,
then line
DOS.
yeah, just like that. We used to program like that, and then a little dot would go, like you could program a little dot to go across the screen, or something crazy like that, which was crazy to me back then.
I
But
know
now they
this.
got, yeah,
Well, I was just gonna say is this is probably a year or two ago. I watched this guy who was a master programmer. Okay, yeah, it was on YouTube, and at least that's where I watched it at. He said AI actually has their own language that we can't understand, and that's something
right,
they were worried about years ago, that
right,
it would communicate and we wouldn't be able to understand it. And he said it actually can do that.
yeah.
Just,
Well,
I mean, think
it
about that.
because it upgrade okay because from what I understand, and it's a very layman's kind of understanding, right? But it's because it upgrades itself, right? So it'll start off at a certain spot and then it'll upgrade, and we might understand that upgrade, right? But then it'll upgrade upon that upgrade, and then it gets to a point where very quickly where it's beyond our understand, beyond what we can understand,
Well, it's
like
more complicated that it's actually talking to each other.
yeah, that's so crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so crazy, man. And
Well,
then
I
like
know like that D wave, that quantum computing.
yes, I
I
was
was
just gonna.
watching that guy. I think it was on a TEDx talk,
Yep,
and
yep,
he was
yep.
talking about like when they run it and test the systems on it or whatever. I mean, they don't even understand half of what it's doing when they do it, and they made it, and they don't even understand how it all works.
And he was even saying that like just the amount of air conditioning and cooling and freezing that they need to keep that thing from being too hot, like the D-Wave chip, that like the combination between the chip running and the cooling system, which is humongous, right? Is it sounds like a heartbeat, like
Oh no,
it's
I
like
didn't hear that.
oh, it's like eerie, and
Yeah, yeah.
what they were okay, so like what Elon Musk was talking about, and this might be like a rabbit trail, I'm not sure, but Elon Musk was talking, of course it's mainstream, right? Is saying, these things will become sentient, like just like us, like they would, be human beings making decisions on their own and all that stuff, right? Which in a sense it's true, right? But
Yes.
like he was trying to make it out like it'll have its own personality, it'll be its own person, it'll be its own thing, right? Its own personality, everything, right? And I wonder how much of that is true, or how much we could just unplug that, or like is there going to be a point where we can't turn it off? Like it'll
Yeah,
program
I don't.
that,
I'm
you
sure it
know?
always can be.
What up, you fucking shows?
Yeah.
What?
Oh man, get it?
You
How did
fake,
you even break in, man?
yeah, I just joined
Okay.
the call. You fake Bible believers talking about Jesus and not the end times.
Oh,
That's
I
it.
love Jesus. Yeah.
Oh, dude, but
But it's
just
so.
remember, you can't. Nowhere in the Bible is it saved you're saved by faith through grace. Just remember that.
Yeah, well, and
Oh
also
yeah,
It's
that
only
too.
like the
it says
whole verse
nobody
says
knows
that.
when the world will end, man. So, and this is one of the things about the whole, or my take on it. A lot of people, they're like, God's like, all right, when it all gets shit, I'm gonna end it, right? And that's what people think. They're like, well, things are getting shitty. Let me sit down, let me fold my hands, and let me wait. I'll wait for God to just do it. And I'm like, do you not understand that, like, that entire thing is like, look, I'm going to come alive inside of you. Like God will become real when the people make him real. That's how God comes back. That's how Jesus comes back when it's in us. So all these people that are like, well, Jesus will take care of everything and they're just sitting waiting. I'm like, no,
Do you know? I
Jesus.
mean, that's what people don't understand, Chris. Is people faith and trust takes
Thing.
action.
Yeah, you can't.
Right,
Yes.
right.
How do you have faith with what is your faith?
Well,
when your
Well,
faith is in
It ain't,
sitting
isn't it?
on
It
the
isn't
horse.
a word. It's their actions. You know what I mean? I totally agree with that.
Go
that's why
be
that's why
fruitful and multiply, man. That's what he tells us. Be
Yep.
fruitful.
well
Sitting
that's why
around waiting
they have
for time
that.
to
That's why when they have the parable of the virgins with the lamps, the 10 lamps, is that yeah, we're supposed to be waiting for his return, ready for his return, waiting, right? But then there's the parable of the talents right next to it, like very soon after, saying, well, don't just stare at the sky, don't bury your talent. You still got to go out and produce. You know, you still got to go out and
It's yeah,
put
it's like
them
Well,
out.
a job.
the
You know,
action with
after
the
two
10
weeks
virgins
in,
is 5 took oil.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
if you quit a job, you're not just going to stop working, right? You know, just because you're 2 weeks are in, you're like, well, I don't got to foot. No, you're like, look, man, I'm a good employee. I'm gonna work with the,
Yeah.
last day.
Tell them a month on the road when you're not there no more. You're waiting on your paycheck because you worked last month.
Right.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. Like, wait, so we should get 2 more weeks of life, which is like God's paycheck, right? Like days are how God pays us. That's how I'm a Christian, so He gives me days, right? Oh, and I'm gonna just take the paycheck and like not work for it? Fuck that.
Right.
That's like,
Well said,
that's
man.
Yeah.
such people, man. They're well, it's like because there's this like religion around the religion, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh
I
well,
don't
God.
like the religious part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't. Oh, he's this mean, evil man. I was talking to somebody. They were like, "Oh, well, God kills babies, so he's a monster." And I'm like, "Okay, but what about abortion doctors? Are they monsters too?" Well, but I was like, "Well, maybe God was just doing abortion. Maybe why are you okay with a doctor doing abortion and he's not a monster? But when
And the
God,
woman
who
letting
created,
the doctor do it to her.
yeah, maybe God had to abort these babies. Maybe it was for the greater good. You're sitting here calling him a monster when you revel and revere that doctors were doing the exact same thing.
Right. Right.
It's
So
hypocritical. You're right. You're right.
And making
Absolutely.
us pay for it.
Yeah.
exactly. And then I
Well,
tell him, oh,
what I think
you
is
know,
lost on it is that like I'll say I'm against abortion, right? I don't speak out against it, right? But I'm against it for sure. And if there was someone in my family dealing with it, I would talk to her about alternatives for sure. But like what people don't see in the whole process is that that little spirit, that little soul goes straight to heaven, straight to heaven, you know. And we don't know what God's plan is, and why things ended up the way they are. And with our little understanding of the way it is, we can only really deal with what's in front of us. It's an evil act, and it's upsetting, right? And so, of course, we want to speak out against that. But with the overall plan that God has, I know that when I die and go to heaven, it's going to make sense and it's going to be fair. I know that,
Right.
because that's the spirit of God, And
And
it's
yeah,
the
and
day.
it's not for us to always know everything while we're here. Things happen
Absolutely.
because of sin, period.
we,
That's
yeah,
right.
like, and that's a lot of the times, especially with T-Mock talking about, oh, well, God is aborting babies because like that's God's will. I'm like, no, God's not doing that shit.
That's
And
disgusting.
that's one of the problems. Everything bad, oh, God is doing. No,
Right.
the whole point of the Bible is that bad happens because people use their free will to go against God's plan. So to sit here and say that the world is like this because God
Well
made
said.
it, it's retarded, bro. If God was doing His will, this world would be perfect, right? The only reason it's not perfect is because people are doing their will and not God's.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. People don't want to blame the bad guy for anything,
They
They'll
blame
be like,
themselves.
oh yeah, they want to blame God for a flood, but they don't want to blame the devil for all the stuff leading up to the flood and all the people that didn't listen to Noah, and
Right? Yeah.
they
They'll
don't
blame
want to
God
be
for
a
the
part of
flood.
that.
They won't
You know?
blame themselves for being 400 pounds. But it's God's fault that the flood happened 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, you eat 15 boxes of Oreos a day and you're fat, and it's God's fault you got diabetes.
And it's my fault you're not healthy because I didn't wear a mask, right? Like,
Right.
And the way I look at it, if you got a mask on and if you think that's protecting you, ain't got nothing to worry about. Don't worry about me.
bro, I fucked with somebody in this guy Wolfgang. If he's listening, good. I said to him, I was like, so when I wear a mask, I protect you, right? He goes, yeah. I was like, well, what about when I put gloves on? Am I protecting your hands? He goes, well, no, you're protecting your. I was like, oh, okay. What about when I put shoes on? Am I protecting your feet or my feet? Well, you're protecting your feet. Okay. Can you name anything that I can put on my body that will protect you besides a mask? And that's where they're like,
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, that mask might help with the weight loss. You know?
They sew it on there.
Yeah, just stitch it on your lips and you'll be all right, you know?
How many people do you still see driving with those masks on? I mean,
Uh,
it's on. It just drives me insane. You're in a
horrible.
car
Man, I
driving
spoke.
70 miles an hour and you got a mask on. Your glasses are all fogged up. I mean, who really? What are you do protect? How dumb do you have to be to do that?
I'd be like, look, if they forced me to wear the mask, like they do, but I was like, look, if I was in a different state of my life, maybe I didn't have anybody to go to the store for me, or whatever, and I would be like, look, I put it on the moment I walked in the store, right? Maybe take it off when I was in the store, but the moment I left the store, I would take it off. I see people walking around with it like a watch, I mean, put my cool mask on. Like it's not even a burden to some of these people. It's like they enjoy it.
You know what it reminds me of? When all these vehicles came out, where when you with that little fob and you lock the door, the truck would beep, your car would beep. So everybody would like be thinking they're all cool because they can make their car beep with a push of a button, And that's how these people are with the mask. It's like they're all proud or they got the newest invention out there or something. Dude, you're killing yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Bro, it's a class. Like, think about like how class specific. Like the peasants. What are the peasants? The peasants might have an old shirt, right? You pieces of crap. You don't even have a new surgical mask because you're a peasant, right? But then the middle class, they'll have like a surgical mask, right? Because they've come on. Then maybe somebody a little upper class, they'll have one that he ordered online, right? Custom action. Maybe a real rich person will have some bedazzle on. It's a status symbol. That's it. They just turned it into like something like that, and then people fucking flock to it. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
but it affects your health in the sense that it causes a chemical reaction to your breathing, and it also emboldens you, like it's like you're a member of a team now, So psychologically, if you're that weirdo that likes to bother people, now you feel more confident going up to somebody saying, "Hey, why aren't you wearing your mask?" Because now you're a mask guy on the mask team,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
you're a
it's like
bigger team
confronting
too.
somebody if you're concealed carrying or not. You have way bigger balls when you're concealed than when you're not. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And when there's 80 people behind you that are all concealed, then they'll
Exactly.
probably got your back if you start to, like if
Right.
that when I was in that, if there was one person in the Goodwill, nobody would have said shit to me, right? One person would have tried one-on-one. No, that wouldn't happen. But when there's 15 of them, oh yeah, now they don't have any issues coming up to me and screaming at me and doing all this. Man, one person, I would have made them look stupid, bro. You got a whole crowd of people. Like, what are you gonna do? You got this crowd of people just
You did
screaming and
anyways.
talking.
That video was
Yeah,
awesome.
you
That
can't do
video
it.
was
No?
awesome. Mad props
Yeah,
there, Chris. Mad props.
because a lot of people talk a big game, man, but you were like on video, put it out on YouTube, and you didn't care how it made you look or whatever. You just you stood by what you said you were going to do and what your principles were, And I admire that. I mean, I don't have like I don't even have half the balls, to say that. I mean, I avoid the mask as much as possible. I don't wear it very, very much. I have to get into the hospital with it. And even they're getting kind of lenient with me where like I put it under my chin or whatever, but like it's tough to avoid. Like I was yelled at Walmart and like it got to like a scene
It's
everywhere.
mental.
So,
It's
yeah,
not
it
just
is.
putting it on. Like people are like, oh, just put. Let me tell you, like I feel like I'm pretty confident, like my values and my. It still gets me anxiety going to the store. I'm like, fuck, am I gonna have to deal with like this mask shit? Like, and everybody
Right.
sees me on the video and they're like, oh, he doesn't give a shit. Bro, I don't go to the store nearly as much as I used to because of this mask shit. I'm just like, look, if I got to have some kind of like confrontation, like I'm only doing that if I really need something because it's like, it's uncomfortable. I really don't like doing. I'd rather not. I'd really rather not. I'd rather just walk into the store, get what I need and leave. But if I have to do what I have to do, I'm going to do it. You know, I don't want to. I don't like doing it. I'd be there every day if I like doing it. You know,
I've yet to put a mask on once. Now I don't even have one. Not once.
I've never. The only time I put a mask on is when I'm spray painting and there's like spray paint like flying in the garage. You know, like I'm like, okay, yeah, that's. I'm not. It's better to breathe your recirculator to air for a couple minutes than get these paint chunks, you know, into your lungs. Other than that, no, I'm not putting it on. But yeah, no, and they bank on that. They bank on, you know, because everybody's like, oh, Christians are such assholes. You'll sit there and you'll tell a lady going into an abortion clinic, like, that's not shit real Christians do. Like a real Christian would be like, look, if you don't want to kill your baby, I'll take it. Like, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you until you give the baby. That's what a real Christian would do. Right? So, like, I'm not, alternative. Yeah, yes. I'm not trying to go in there to cause trouble. I just want to get my stuff. But again, like a Christian will stand up for his values. And if they tell you, yo, you have to cover your face, I'm going to be like, I can't do that. We have to work around this. Or, you know, and it's ironic, you know, or not ironic, but it's good. Like God works in a way. Like, they're like, oh, you called the cops on yourself. Yeah, I did, because I wanted to speak to a cop, because I wanted to know, like, what can you do? If I don't put a mask on, can you arrest me? Can you throw me in prison? Like, where does your legal authority land? And like,
it was cool too.
Yeah, that's how we find out. You know?
Yeah, and that video I sent you last is great, man. One of the guy, like, because I keep getting my eyes open to like what they're trying to do. And one of the things the guy said, he was like, well, it's a private business. If they ask you to leave, you have to leave. And I was like, and under my understanding, I was like, okay, you're right. But then I was watching this other guy, and he's like, you got to understand, a publicly traded company is not a private business, right? They are publicly traded. So once you start selling shares.
You're breaking up really, really bad.
Hang on, let me go outside.
Just talk quieter into the mic, you'll be all right.
Can you hear me now? A little better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the things he was saying is that once you start trading publicly, right, like you have shares and shit, you're not a private company anymore. So you can't just tell anybody they have to get out. You have to follow the commercial standards, right? You can't discriminate as a publicly traded company. You could do that as a private company. If I had a business, I could say, I don't like your face, get out. Right. I don't have shareholders. Right. But as a public company, you're not allowed to do that. You can't discriminate based on anything. So basically this mask order is them saying, oh, you can't come in here, you don't have a blue hat on. I'm like, I don't have to wear blue hats. What, are you discriminating against me because I don't have a blue hat on? And that's it. It is discrimination, because they're choosing you to not let you in based on something that is not. It's not like if you were breaking the law, they can say you can't come in here, you don't have pants, right? You're not allowed to come in here, you're breaking the law. That's legal. Now, if they try and say you can't come in here for a non-legal reason, you're gay, you're long hair, not wearing a mask, I don't like your red shirt, that's discrimination, and that's illegal.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, I like how you put it, like this morning when we were talking about like there's like there's always going to be some kind of religious out, and there's always going to be some kind of medical like out, and they can't ask you about your medical disability. But like the problem is really like, let's say you clear it with the guy at the door, right? They let you in reluctantly, whatever, right? You still got to deal with the hive, you know? You still got to deal with the hive, and that's where the main problem is. And it's like,
and that's what the hive makes 80%, probably more people put on the mask because of the hive than because of the regulation.
Right. I agree.
Oh, absolutely. Or just to go along. Yeah, just to be a part of that gang.
I told Steve this story, but I was in the Home Depot, and like I said, I never wear a mask. So wherever I go, I'm walking maskless. And it used to be, you know, I'd see another non-masker here and there. Now it's only me, right? So I'm in the thing, I'm buying my metal roofing for the porch, and there's this customer, he has a mask, and he comes up to me, and he's like, hey, you don't have to wear a mask. And at first I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. And I was like, look, man, I can't, so I don't. They don't say anything. And he's like, he pulls his mask down. He's like, fuck, man, I hate this damn thing. So you're telling me I don't have to wear it? And I'm like, look, man,
nice.
I was like, look, the more people that they see without a mask, right? If you had a business and there's 1,000 people lined up without a mask and 2 people with one, you're going to let the mask people in, right? You're like, yo, you guys got more money.
Absolutely.
So that's how I told him, like, look, the more people that are without a mask, the harder it's going to be for a business to kick us all out. You know, if half the people are in masks and half aren't, the business is going to be like, fuck it, whatever, I don't care. You got one person in there without a mask, they're going to be like, this guy's, you know, then the other people are going to be like, oh, why doesn't this guy have a mask? And they start complaining. And that's where it really starts, you know?
Right.
So it's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah. It's about our
You know,
soul,
I
I
mean,
breaking down our spirit,
but as far as these companies, who they let in or out, I mean,
Sure, sure. Yeah,
if
yeah,
it
yeah.
come down, like you say, if 80% of people weren't wearing masks and 20 were, they wouldn't say a word to anybody not wearing a mask, especially the smaller stuff. Them bigger businesses, corporations, who knows what's going on with them? They all should be bankrupt now and folded. So how they're staying alive, I have no idea.
Because
But
all the small businesses are
it's just
closed.
ridiculous.
That's one of the beauty parts. All the small businesses that would be like, yeah, I don't care if you have a mask. They had to shut
Right.
down due to the quarantine for the past 3 months. So they're either like not able to even open, or they're gone for good. You know,
There's
not many people can shut their doors for 4 months and not make any income, get $1,200 and stay in business. Like
well,
that's
Right.
there's
Right.
there's a Mexican restaurant, right, that is up near where my mom lives, right, that's been in business for 97 years, and they closed their doors the other day. 100 years, man. That
Wow.
business was,
that's
yeah.
great. I've said
There's
this
a
before,
restaurant
man.
like
There was
that
the
here
guy.
too. It was 40 some years they were open and they uh bankrupt.
Yeah.
Bro,
It's
the
a
gym
damn
near me,
shame.
the guy, he said he hasn't closed his doors. He's been 24/7 for 40 years. He's never closed it. Hurricane Katrina, he was open. He had to close because of the pandemic.
Right.
I'm like,
Wow.
Right.
killing businesses, man, killing. And then people, where are we gonna go? So we go to Walmart. This is why Bezos made 500 billion during the
Yeah,
pandemic.
he made money. He made money. Yeah.
Everybody's ordering on Amazon. Oh, I can't go out. Let me
Right.
order it on Amazon. They're
Right.
just funneling money to the top. You can't go to a small business and
Absolutely.
get what you need. Crazy, man.
I
Real,
mean,
real tough.
and you can see it coming 40, 50 years ago. When when all these companies would start merging and merging and merging to now there's only a few companies that really control the whole United States and everything. Right? You have only a couple cable companies, a couple telephone companies, a couple cell phone companies. I mean, that's it.
That's it.
There
No,
is
it's like
no
three phone companies, man. AT&T just merged with Verizon. Sprint
That's
is
right.
about to merge with T-Mobile. We're down to two.
dude.
Look,
AT&T bought DirecTV. That
it's
was a
just a
couple years back
conglomerate.
already. I mean, so they're making it more and more, that one world government because everything will fall underneath that, and then all the sheep underneath, which
Sure.
is
And
us.
splitting us up. Yeah, we get split up into 100 billion different categories. Why the top just gets tighter? You know what I mean? We're fighting over
Yep.
being Democrats, masks,
Yep.
Republicans, white,
Yep.
black, rich, poor. They're all getting along at the top.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
And that's one thing people don't get. It don't matter if you have a R or D after your name or who you are. They're all the same people. See, but below us, you got the mask, non-mask, the black, the white. I mean, they keep us fighting, thinking there's a difference between us when it's not. I mean, we're all one, right?
All
Right.
But
people
people
come in
aren't
every
seeing that.
color,
They
bro.
keep us fighting, amongst each other, while they just keep grouping together and consolidating. They're like
Mm-hmm.
a school of those what are them fish that those big whales eat?
Oh,
You know,
like krill.
yeah,
So
krill. You know how they get in them big balls, school balls. Like one big massive clump. And that's
yeah.
what the government's doing. That's what they're becoming. That one big clump. You know, tighter and tighter and tighter. And then they just keep us fighting and fighting and fighting and hating each other because of color of our skin.
Yeah.
I mean, when they say
Because
Corona
There was
targets
the
black
school.
people, are you
What
yeah.
kidding me?
football teams we like, right? What video games they? Oh, your Xbox on PlayStation. Oh, on PC. Bro, it's like
Right.
I
I mean,
guarantee
it's
you this.
great.
I
Literally
guarantee you this
everything, bro.
that well
Nike, Reebok.
I guarantee you this, right? Elon Musk and LeBron James don't have any racial problems, you know, and
Look,
it's because they're at the
Shaq.
top, right? They want
Shaq
us
got
to argue
big
that way.
black
They
monkey.
don't do
They
it,
love that guy, bro. It
Yeah,
has
no,
nothing
it's
to do with
because
color.
they want us to fight over that little crap, right? But at the very very top, look at how they act. That's how we're supposed to get along, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
like they keep throwing all these wrenches in our system, getting us to hate each other, suspect each other, or to think the other person's thinking about us. which none of it's true, right? Like the average person wakes up, doesn't want to hurt anybody, just wants to live their life, man, get home, man. They're tired. They don't want to deal with all this extra.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. And they just keep throwing these little bits out there to get you fighting with the next guy. And it's
They
horrible.
make a movie, put out a TV series, put out a YouTube
Yes.
video, just to keep that hate there. They keep that divide because they don't want us united because they couldn't beat us if we were.
They couldn't. There's too many of us. And,
Yeah, it's 80-20.
Yeah. Or even bigger than we're
Or
even.
even bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing with religion, because like they know, look, whether religion's right or wrong, it unifies, right? So that's one of the things they can't have, right? They can't have a strong. And now picture a whole bunch of people unified around not being afraid of death and being like, yo, this world is mine. I have rights. Like you're not gonna tell me I can't walk on my God's earth. Like this God made this earth for me. You're gonna tell me I can't walk. If everybody had that, they would have they couldn't control it. They couldn't. So they had to get rid. That was one of the first things they had to get rid of. Once they get rid of that, then they get rid of your personality, your personal. Like you're not a person. That's why they keep calling them cattle herd mentality, right?
Right. Exactly. You're an
no
animal.
individuality, because individuals have rights, right? An individual has rights. A community has rules. Individuals have rights. Communities have rules. So they get rid of the individual and turn it into a community with rules, and there's no individual rights.
Yeah, because if I'm living on my own little piece of farmland, you're not going to come tell me what to do, But if you get us into little cities and societies, right now I have to vote or find some kind of way to leverage my opinion now, because I have to live in this little square with 8 other people, And it's that's what they wanted to do, is to take us off of these little land reservations that we all had for each other, or that we all had these homesteads or whatever, and put us in these cities, pack us in there to where look, I haven't killed a cow in my life. I haven't killed a chicken in my life, right? But those are things, if I could do that, I wouldn't need them for that, right? You know what I mean? Like they want us dependent on them for everything, food, for safety, for, everything.
So that's child labor laws, right? Child labor laws were all aimed at rural farmers who had their children working on the land. Oh, your kid's 13, he can't be working. Well, what the fuck? He's not working. This is what we're doing. Get the fuck out of here. Oh no, he's got to go to school. And if he doesn't go to school, you got to homeschool. And be like, I don't got time to be telling my kid about fucking slavery in World War II. We got okra and potatoes that need fucking doing he's got to, that's
real life to work on. We don't have time for your Christopher Columbus and boats and crap.
That fucking story, bro. Make it a movie, put it into 2 hours, and I'll watch it maybe.
Yeah, give us a video. We'll look at it. Yeah. I'm not gonna teach my kid about the spinning ball if you know what I mean? Like come on, man. If the kid can't come up with it on his own with his own imagination, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
I mean, back in the day, like Chris was saying about them kids on the farm, they were driving vehicles and tractors before they were still in diapers.
My dad was one of those fucks. He had me in a car when I was 12 years old.
Right.
On the street, bro. Like on the street. He's like, you're gonna learn how to drive sooner or later. But he didn't give a fuck about it. I mean, he wasn't a great guy, but it was one of those where he's just like, what, you got to be 18? He's like, no, you don't. Do your feet reach the pedals? I'm like, yeah, okay. Well,
that's it. Yes. And see, like when I was a kid, 10, 11, 12, 13, we used to get on our bikes. We'd be 20 miles from home, man, and we wouldn't have to worry about nothing crazy, I mean, there's always that occasional freak or whatever, but if you stuck together with your little group, you were fine, And
now
they
haven't been 20 miles from their house ever.
Ever. Yes, you're right. My kids are like, well, my oldest son is very adventurous, right? But my youngest son, I mean, he's probably hasn't been out of Belmont maybe 100 times in his life.
My brother's becoming like that. Like we did a lot of. My grandfather was rich before. Well, he's dead, but whatever. So before he died, he was taking. His retirement money. He would take the family on trips, right? So we went to Bermuda, Bahamas, Las Vegas, like all over this thing. then it was, then like my brother kind of got into like he's big into the system, right? Like he works the union job, the paycheck, the drinking, the bars, like the life, like he's all in that. And now he's like, oh, I can't leave New York, right? Like he said he would never leave New York. So now we're like, okay, so you've now relegated yourself to the 5 boroughs, right? Because you can't go anywhere else because the lifestyle that you live can't be lived anywhere else, right? Like I can,
Right.
Right.
man, I can pack up and go anywhere, right? Just take my chickens, I got trees and, just plant the stuff wherever I am. But because he's in the system, he can only, you know what I mean? He can only live there. So now he's like, okay, so what, you got to spend the rest of your life in New York?
Well, that's
All
one thing that I regret about my kids is that, like I never taught them how to sew. They don't know how to fish. I don't know how to fish. They don't know how to hunt. And, those are really things that
Tom
we
teach the
all
guy.
need to know. Yeah. And I really regret not living like that. But like I was under the impression until I was like 20 years old that life was kind of fair. Like that like people wouldn't go so far with you. But now knowing how far a person will actually go, how bad a person actually can be, like I just tell my kids, look, it's never going to be fair. Just try to be as happy as you can, and don't worry.
Right.
You're allowed to be scared when something is in your face, but to be afraid all day of something that isn't there yet is it's going to cause you stress.
It's not going to be fair to the end. That's
That's it.
that's
You're
the
right. You're right.
so
That's the way it is. But
you
God
got
warned us about this. God warned us about all this stuff, and you know, uh, yeah, and I appreciate there's Christians out there that say, hey, we can change the world and all this stuff. And hey, look, I appreciate that spirit, and we can make it better by all praying together and stuff. But like the reality is that we're in a created story that's already written from beginning to end, and it's
Yeah.
going to take place, whether that's now. Or maybe we'll take a big shift and it'll get better, but it's looking now like it could be over any minute, right?
But here's
And
the
it's
thing:
like,
we got a part in that story that we have to play, though, Steve.
that's right. That's
We
right. I agree.
just, yeah, we don't just sit back and let it happen. I mean, there's action. God requires us to
Yeah.
take action and do the things He wants us and tells us to do. And it's
Yeah.
all through the Bible what He wants us to do. So,
yeah. I
Yeah.
think those actions will culminate in like the end, right? Like it'll because when you think about, I always think about like they're like, oh, Jesus was crucified, right? And you also think about how like we're crucified, not physically, right? But go into any chat room and tell them you believe in flat Earth. You want to talk about crucifixion? Holy fuck, man! You dumb fuck! You think the Earth is flat? You're a stupid fuck! You deny blah blah blah. And I'm like, damn, bro, you're crucifying me just for having So, and then when other people start seeing that, right? Like even in like the flat Earth community, it's kind of becoming a thing like where they're like, yo, ballers are just getting mad, right? Like
They're
they
just
don't even really
trolls.
have, yeah,
Yeah.
because they don't have arguments. And I think what God knows, He's like, look, eventually there's always going to be left or right, my way, God's way, or not God's way, right? And what's going to happen is the people that are doing it God's way, the people who aren't are going to be looking at it and going, huh, it kind of looks a little better. Look how they're not screaming. Look how everybody's getting along. Why are they helping each other? Why are they not selfish? I don't understand. What's going on over there, right? And they're going to see how much better, right? So then they're going to start
Right.
questioning. And even when their people start killing us, maybe some of them are like, why are you killing these guys? We're saying how horrible these, pathetic Christians are, but we're slaughtering them. We're worse. And I think that's when the waking up will happen. And I think maybe a couple, like Christians will have to die, I'm sure. I'm
oh
sure
yeah,
there's a ton of us
oh
ready to
yeah.
die for. And
Like,
think about if anybody came to you and was like, would you die so that everybody can see that killing is wrong and never kill again? I'd be like,
yes, yes,
yeah, I mean, yeah, that sucks. I got to be the one, but okay. If it
I
means
would
the
do
rest
it.
of the world never kills again, I'll do it. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's the message that God sends. He's like, look, you'll die, but when you do, everybody else will be like, huh, that was fucking horrible. I never want to have to do that to anybody. And then picture He resurrects you. And then you come back 3 days later, all the people were like, and they're like, oh, fuck, you're alive. Oh, shit, you were listening to us say how wrong it was. And you're like, yeah, I was. So,
Right.
who knows how, again, I'm not saying I know that, but it could be something like that, whereas like, we're not Jesus, quote unquote. But I think if you die for what you believe in, I mean, come on, well, not almost Jesus, but like you did something Jesus did, right? So you're Jesus-esque in that you gave up your life for your
Well,
beliefs.
if I could die for him, it would be the greatest
Well,
moment of my life,
and that's
really.
what God says. Jesus says, I mean, there's no greater love than a man lays down his life for another man, right?
That's right.
There you
I
go.
mean,
I think
think about that.
picture you get somebody who now this is like where you start. I like to philosophize about it. I'm like, maybe like I always thought Jesus, perfect sinless life. So
Yeah.
one life could be waiting for the next person to live a perfect sinless life, maybe raise a perfect sinless child. Is it possible? I don't know. Or maybe it's like when one of us is getting crucified, a non-believer, right, sees it and becomes a believer like that, and that's when
We
that
hope so.
and that'll be the shift. Like that's Jesus returning. Like, because if Jesus can come into a non-believer's heart, holy fuck! Could you imagine just by seeing like a non-believer sees a crucifixion and it's like, holy
See,
fuck.
the way it is that that person has to want it, right? I mean, that's the whole free will thing. Like, if he wants God in his heart, God will be in his heart.
And what could
Like,
make somebody want something more than like watching somebody die for it?
yeah, I'd be willing to do that if it would get 3 or 4 or one person, to
Right.
change their life, because like I feel called to like try to help get people saved, but what I'm realizing is that when I go at a person trying to save them all in one day, it doesn't work, like I'm having to plant these little seeds, right? But I feel like inside I'm running out of time, and like I'm not getting anybody to God,
But you
it's
don't
that's
know that.
like
All you can
that's,
do is plant the seed, Steve. You know, God does the watering. You got no control other than just telling them the truth. After
yeah,
that, it's not. You have nothing to do with it. After that, absolutely
Yeah,
nothing.
you never get, and rarely will you get somebody that comes up to you who's like, Steve, it's because
Right.
of
of
hungry
you.
for the truth, yeah.
Like you've probably changed people, and you don't even know it.
Way
So
more than
that's
you'll
where
ever know until you get to heaven. Absolutely.
and that, yeah, I think that's when you get to know. I think God, when He goes, hey, remember when you did this, and you kind of were like, I was having a bad day, so you did something good, and you didn't really think about it. Then He shows you like the chain of events that it led. He's like, look, this
Yes.
person's having a bad day, and you're like, holy shit. You're like, I did all that, and you're like, yeah, man. And then
And
so you
see,
get the realization.
that's why I like, I so that's what the whole being secure with your own salvation provides you, right? Like to know okay, so I know some people that have like the opinion that like you can't be secure, you can't feel like you're saved, right? Ever, right? And I'm like, that's way against what the Bible is, like
That's a
it's a
lie.
gift, it's a gift, right? It's a gift. It's like if God buys me a Ferrari, right? I know that I'll never be able to buy a Ferrari on my own, right? So God buys me a Ferrari, right? And says, here's a book about how you pay for it, I'm like, what are you talking about? You said you bought it for me, like the gift is already given to you, right? and then and
Paid in
then
full.
paid in full, and then out of gratitude for that security, right, you spread the word, you do everything that you can for God, and
Yeah, like,
just sort of, natural, just naturally how that progression should go, like, wow, I'm giving you this that you don't deserve, and it's completely the highest luxury I can give you, right? And you don't deserve it, right? And so just, I mean, it makes sense just to do some works and to show gratitude for that, right? Not that it's required of you at all, but to say you can't have any security in that, that's a different kind of spirit telling you that, I think.
I think like if you picture a good deed, right? Like, and this is how I see God seeing the world. Even though I know He can't, but so God, I feel like every being that's around Him, He's not telling them to be around Him. In my version of God, there's always something that's making music, right? Like when He walks around with music. Like, why wouldn't? That's just how. Because if I was a God, that's why I would have music playing, right? And I don't
Yeah.
think it's like, hey, I want music playing. I think there's somebody or something that's just good at music and is just grateful. He was like, bro, God gave me this
Right.
Ferrari. And he's just like, so what I do to show my gratitude is Monday from 8 to 9, I play this song that I write, right? And then somebody does the two, and everybody is showing their gratitude. And now if we did that here on earth in just a different capacity, right?
Right.
You worked for each other and not for yourself, then you would have heaven, you know, and everybody's working for themselves. And then when you work for yourself, it's so easy to take the day off, you know, like, oh, you know, I'll put my feet up. But if you're working for the guy next to you, man, you're like, look, I can't stop. Like, you know, he's going to need these extra 2 hours of work. But you know, the guy working for you is doing just as hard. So, you know, we're trying to make a chain, you know, chains link up to each other. We're trying to make a chain of circles, and we're just bonking because they're not connected. And that's how I feel like everybody, they're not working with each other.
Yeah. Well, without God, I mean, I don't think I'd be able to live without any, I mean, to have no hope and to have no future, and to think that, like, to look in the mirror and to think I'm just a piece of meat with no soul in me, right? Like none of that makes,
Like,
yeah, none of that makes sense to
imagine
me.
right now without God. It would be, I don't
I
know
mean,
how I
look how
did it.
tough it is with you
I
know,
don't know how I did it.
knowing God is in Christ saved us. How tough life is because of sin. Just imagine if there was no God, how evil this place would be.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think people are so angry. Like, I used to be very angry, you know, and like you never knew what you were angry about. Or you were just like,
Right?
Yeah,
you're mad at the world almost because of the way the world
right.
is. But you couldn't do anything about it, right? You know, you were just
Yeah,
it was like unsettling. You were always unsettled. And then, like, you know, once you realize, like, you know, hey, look, it's this way because it has to be right now, you know, like, because this is how it has to be. It's just,
yeah.
you know,
It's a favor to us, really, to even
you gotta
exist. You know?
don't question. Yeah, you don't try and understand it. You know,
Yeah,
Right?
if it didn't have to be like this, it wouldn't be. God's not a
Right?
fucking piece of shit. He wouldn't make it like this, or he wouldn't allow it to be like this if it didn't have to be. So you just
right.
accept it has to get to the point where it's so bad, you know? Because if
Well, and
heaven
that's
is
the
perfect, you need that contrast. So we have
He's
to
given
live
us so many
based
chances,
on
man, you know, to reset this place and get it right, you know?
yeah, and
And
they kept giving them chance after chance.
he had to come down and die to give us entry into heaven, when we should have just, you know, been from the very start, been grateful and, or, you know, had our own righteousness, you know? But he knew we couldn't do that for ourselves, you know? We're almost like a failed experiment, you know what I mean? Like, you know, but God redeemed everything, you know? And it's like crazy that now that we're in the age of grace, knowing that that Jesus sacrificed himself already, right? Like, imagine living before that, right? Before that grace, right? But now knowing that it's a gift and it's grace and it's free, right? You're still going to get a person that says, "Well, what do I have to be sorry for anyway?" You know, it's like, well, what does it matter? Just accept the gift, and you know, you're not in control, man. And just you know,
right.
yeah, ride it
Ask
out.
And
Dave
no
why.
matter how much you think you're in control, you're not at all.
Yeah,
And man,
no,
that is the biggest quote of the day right there. How much they think they're in control, they're not. Listen to what I do to Brenda. Listen to what I do to Gem Panda. Listen to what I do. They're not in control, man. And
Right?
this is what I tell them. I'm like, yo, look, you can say what you want about me, but since I've come along this journey, and now that I'm like, I feel like every day I get a stronger connection to the creator, right? And what he wants. I'm calling him dad now. I'm like, yo, dad, what's up? How you doing?
yeah,
I don't,
I like
I don't even call him Lord. Like, I don't think he likes that. I think he like I used to say Lord, thanks. I don't think he likes it. I say thanks, Dad, for this stuff because that's how I look at him. And ever since that, it's just like everything is kind of like, you know, I'm looking at these people as children. I'm like, yeah, they're my brothers, but they're my younger brothers, right? And they're, you know, and they're like, you know, he's like, oh, he's screaming at the screen, he's throwing the controller, and you're like, bro, it's a game. Calm down, man. It's just a game. It'll be all right, you know.
Hey,
And yes,
just to touch on the dad thing, I'm not sure which word it is. I'd have to go find out. But
Abba,
like, you
Abba,
know, it
Abba.
means daddy, right?
Yeah, the word is Abba, Abba, Father,
Well, no, but
Daddy.
I know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean, it's
yeah,
because we're like little children. I mean, we think we're these mature adults, but no
yeah,
man, you know, we don't get to heaven unless we're like a little child, and that's why one of his names, like Steve was saying, it is Abba,
yeah.
Father. But I think there's another one that actually means daddy,
Yeah, there probably is for sure.
unless
I
it's the
can't.
same one. I just not sure. So if you know that, Steve, you're probably correct on that. You know, because
Yeah,
we're like the little children, and he's our
yeah.
daddy,
I look
yeah,
at
but
it
he's
like the
also
split.
father. You know
The
what I
gap
mean?
think about the gap in between you and your dad when you're 3 or 4. right? Then you call him dad, right? Because
Right.
he does it. Can you do? Geez, you're like, man, he's like a Superman. He can lift a car, right? He uses the jack. Yeah, the car lifts up. You don't know about the jack, but he's lifting the car. Then so as you get older and you can start doing all that stuff, that's when he kind of becomes your father, right? You're like, well, I'm a man. I have a son, right?
Right.
So I'm a dad. I can't call my dad dad. We'll never reach that. Like God, you're never going to do what he does. He'll always be your dad, right?
Hey, I'm
You'll
just a
never
baby.
become what he is.
I'm just a little tiny. I'm so small. I'm so small, man.
Dad.
Uh,
Yeah, like you're screaming at me. What do I do? Just be calm. You'll be all right. Okay.
sometimes I wonder, like, I know that I'll never be righteous, but like sometimes I wonder, if God had me in His hand, like if I would be like a cool little guy, like to
Well,
Him,
it's so funny you say that. I was picking up my chicken, right? Because chickens, they're always on the ground. But I got these littler ones, and like I'll pick them up, and when they get up high, they're like, man, you got to see them. Like they start looking around, their neck is up, they almost transform, right? And I used to think like, you ever think God would just like pick us up, right? And then you'd be like, so you just get higher, and you can see stuff. It's cool. It's cool to.
I would
You
love
ever
it.
You can
climb up
see the
top of your
flat
house?
Earth.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You start seeing all this stuff. You're like, wow, this is what it looks like from up here.
Dear Heavenly Father, I turn to you today. I repent of all my sins. I believe that your Son, Jesus Christ, died on the cross for my sins and was resurrected to life on the third day. And forevermore he lives. Father, I ask of you to baptize me with the Holy Spirit right now. Change my heart and renew my spirit. I invite you, Jesus, to enter into my heart. Change me, save me, and be the Lord of my life. Right now, in your mighty name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.